Looking for something rogue? It's time for Vikavolt. Welcome back everyone to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch and today we're going to take a look at a bit of a rogue deck that was given to us by the world champion himself, Henry Brand. This is Vikavolt. It's a stage 2 attacker that can potentially get up to 220 damage, and then with Electro Powers can get anywhere upwards of 340. If you are looking to knock out VMAX Pokemon, then Vikavolt can actually do it. Let's take a look at the list. So that's the list. This is the list that we're looking at. Vikavolt, obviously the main attacker in this deck, using Electro Cannon, 4 Lightning Energy, or 3 Lightning and a Colorless, 120 plus 100 for discarding all Lightning Energy from this Pokemon. But you'll notice our deck doesn't actually run energy. Unbelievable, I know. That's because Charjabug has the ability Battery. Once during your turn before you attack, you can attach this card to one of your Vikavolt or Vikavolt GX in play as a special energy, and it provides 2 lightning while it's attached to that Vikavolt. So we can use 2 Charjabug to attach to our Vikavolt, and then we can attack with Electro Cannon. Also, just so you know, whilst there's a stadium in play, this Pokemon doesn't have any weakness. It shouldn't come up, but it might. Electro Cannon doing 220 is pretty strong, and with our Electro Powers, we can get that up to 250, 280, or even 340, which is a pretty crazy turn if you're able to do it. But Electro Power is there. Obviously, there is a bit of a problem with setup with this deck. You're looking at a stage 2, so we're playing Rare Candy, but there are obviously lots of cards that we need to get into, which is why we're playing 1 copy of Zacian V for Intrepid Sword and a 4/4 line of Cinccino with Make Do. We've got lots of cards that we need to find, and we need to find them all at the right time. So Cinccino, being able to trade those cards away, is very strong. We also run 1 Mew so that we can protect our assets on the bench. The last thing we want is a Vikavolt getting knocked out. We have lots of Pokemon Search in the deck. There are 4 copies of Quick Ball for basics, 4 copies of Evolution Incense for evolved Pokemon, 4 copies of Great Ball for extra Pokemon Search, and we even play 4 copies of Lure Ball to be able to grab evolved Pokemon back from the discard pile. 1 copy of Ordinary Rod as well can grab Pokemon back. That's because we're obviously attacking with a stage 2. We need to get as many into our hand as we can. We also have Charjabugs that we need to use for energy. So not only do we use them to find Pokemon, but we also use them to recur it. Hopefully Ordinary Rod we can use to get back a couple of Grubbin, because we only have access to 4 of them. If we use the Ordinary Rod, then we've got 6. And then we use Lure Balls to get Charjabug and Vikavolt back. We might potentially look at increasing this to an extra Ordinary Rod just to be that tiny little bit safer, but on the most part we should be fine. Our Gust in this list is 2 copies of Great Catcher to be able to gust out things like Dedenne, which we can knock out effectively for free, and Mewtwo Mew, things like Pikarom, that kind of stuff, which you can get knockouts on. Obviously, it's a cool attacker that can do a decent amount of damage, so Great Catcher can kind of get the benefit from that. We also have 3 copies of Switch. We don't want to get things like Zacian stuck in the active with 2 retreat cost. We also have 1 copy of Air Balloon as well. Our supporter line is quite thin. Realistically, we have 3 copies of Erika's Hospitality, as is going to give us the most cards in the early game. We could potentially play a Professor Sycamore, Professor Magnolia, but that might discard valuable rare candies or resources that we don't want to get rid of, so Erika's is going to do that for us early. And we also have 4 copies of Bill's Analysis to find 2 trainers from the top 7 cards of our deck. That way we can get into things like our Great Catchers, or our Lure Balls, or our Quick Balls, or Electro Powers, whatever it is that we need to find to get a knockout with a Vikavolt. So that's the list. It's a pretty wild one that you might be able to take along to a league, cup, or challenge. My recommendation would be to test it out on the ladder a bit first. We've got a game coming for you now. Let's take a look. Here we go, some gameplay on the ladder. We are playing Vikavolt. We're flipping a coin here. Hopefully we can start off. We've obviously got a decent chance if we're going first, but Unfortunately, our opponent is going to be maneuvering before us. We've got 2 Grubbins here, which is pretty strong, and a Quick Ball, so that's also pretty good. We can chuck those Grubbins down and get ourselves going. Not sure what our opponent is playing here. They've got the Psychic Deck Box, they've got Greninja and a Water Energy, so this could potentially be anything. Not entirely sure. Greninja GX obviously being played in Mewtwo, but Water Energy not seeing play too much in that particular deck. We've got 3 mulligans here, so we're going to grab a few extra cards. We'll chuck that Minccino down. Looks like we've got a Ditto and a Snom from our opponent here, so this is a really interesting one. Not entirely sure what we're going to be looking at. We've got the Acrobike coming out. I'm going to be discarding a card and grabbing a card from the top of the deck. It looks like the Chaotic Swirl getting discarded there. We have a Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX heading to the bench, so perhaps we're looking at a kind of a water box version of Mewtwo and Mew. Quick Ball will discard a Pokemon Catcher, and we'll grab out, you'd presume, a Dedenne on the first turn here, unless, of course, they already have one in hand. Yeah, we could be looking at Water Box. Ditto is awkward, but the Snom suggests that we're probably going to see Frostmoth, which means we've got Water Energy coming down. Dedenne is going to be the card that they find with Quick Ball, maybe just doing some searches. And there is a Water Energy as well. They're actually holding onto the Dedenne there. That's an interesting choice, and it's going to give us a little bit of time here to help ourselves get set up. We're probably going to lose this Grubbin, but that's okay. We're going to grab this Zacian. It's probably the most important card that we've got. We could potentially switch into it, but that's just Intrepid Sword. We're going to grab Evo Incense. We have an Erika and an Air Balloon as well. So we've got a little bit of a pivot, and more importantly, we've got ourselves a Cinccino and also a Vikavolt next turn, since we've got the Rare Candy in hand and those 2 Evo Incense. So hopefully things don't go too wrong here. It looks like our opponent is using Silvally GX as a potential potential draw engine. You can see that would be why they didn't Dedenne that hand away. They're going to gust out the Zacian and then draw some cards. So that's actually pretty good for us. It means that we're going to save a Grubbin here, but it's also a bit disappointing because they might be able to take 2 prizes with a Mewtwo Mew this turn. It just depends on what their attacker is, because at the moment they don't realistically have too many. A Jirachi GX going in the bin. They could potentially attack with Silvally or even Dedenne, but at the moment not looking particularly strong. Disc Reload coming out. We'll see a couple of extra cards into our opponent's hand, and now we're going to see a Cherish Ball, so they'll be able to grab out something that looks like an ADP here. So this could be very frightening. We could be looking at our opponent taking a big set of prizes, ADP benches, and you'd think that that Mewtwo would be able to Altered Creation now. And that means that our opponent is going to be taking 2 prizes every time they knock out a Vikavolt. So this game has just gotten very, very interesting. What we'll do is we'll chuck down the Air Balloon onto the Zacian. Since it's in the active, we can potentially retreat off of it. The Evo Incense is going to come down here. We'll be able to Rare Candy into a Grubbin. I think we'll grab either the Cinccino or the Charjabug. The Charjabug means that we're attacking now, which is very important. We've got an Electropower in hand, and we've also got an Erika's Hospitality, so potentially could see ourselves getting down to a reasonably small hand size here. We will play the Erikas and get ourselves 5 fresh cards. We don't find the extra Electropower here, but we do have a Great Ball, so we could potentially use that. Maybe we can find ourselves a Cinccino, and we do, so that's a good pickup here. We can Cinccino, maybe get rid of one of these Erikas to try and find the second Electropower. We might even get rid of something else. Now, I reckon the Erika's probably the best play and try and get the Electropower. We don't find it, but we do get an extra Vikavolt here. So we could theoretically find ourselves with 2 attackers ready to go. We've got the Charjabug in our hand and the Lure Ball, so I'm feeling pretty strong. But whether or not we attach for the use that battery ability, I don't think so. What we're going to do is we're just going to retreat here. We've got Electric Cannon. We can do 120 or 220 here. What we might actually do is just go for the 120 and leave the leave the Charjabugs on, because that way we don't need to discard them. If we don't get knocked out, then we should be okay. We'll Electro Cannon now and give ourselves the best chance to take the knockout by discarding those. 220 seems fine. Obviously we didn't have to, but it's probably for the best. Alright, now our opponent is in a position where they're going to be able to take 2 prizes on this Vikavolt because of their altered creation. 3 energy coming down here is a pretty strong amount of energy to have on a Mewtwo. Disc Reload comes out and we're looking at an evolution from Frostmoth. Our opponent's actually going to be able to use ADP's attack here to accelerate some energy to their bench as well. So Ultimate Ray is going to take a knockout on this Vikavolt, which is disappointing for us. It means they're going to power up a new Mewtwo. And yeah, we're in an awkward spot. We can take a knockout on the active with a Vikavolt on the bench, presuming that we flip heads on a Lure Ball here. But ultimately, we might be in a bit of trouble. Although if we do find ourselves another Electropower and a Gust, we could be good to go here. We do have a Bills, so we might be able to potentially play that. Depends, of course, on how many heads we flip with this Lure Ball. And oh, hey, we just flipped 3 heads. That's perfectly fine. We'll grab the Charjabugs and the Vikavolt back, and we'll be able to attach twice. The question now is, are we able to find another Grubbin? We're going to make do here. We'll probably get rid of this Erika's, and we're not going to need that anymore. We find another Cinccino, which is pretty big, so we can play that down. We might be able to trade again, potentially get rid of one of these switches. We're not likely to need them anymore. And we actually find another Electropower. So if we are able to get a Gust off of this, we can take a knockout on a Mewtwo on the bench. We'll grab the Bills Analysis, maybe the Great Ball, although no, I think it probably is going to be best here to try and go for this knockout on the benched Mewtwo. We can still have a little bit of time to get that attack. Maybe we go with the Great Ball so we can try and find a Grubbin though. I do want to get that going. So we'll Great Ball and we don't find a Grubbin. We've got a Minccino. The Cinccino that's in our hand we'll be able to use potentially to evolve next turn. But we're in a bit of a risky position because we are going to lose one of our main attacker, which is going to be really disappointing. We would have liked to have seen a Grubbin off of that particular Great Ball. We'll put the Cinccino and the Minccino in the bin. We'll just Gust up this Mewtwo and Mew, and hopefully here we are able to get ourselves a nice knockout. We'll Electro Cannon. We'll discard those energy, and bang, there is the 280 required for the knockout on Mewtwo and Mew. We could even have knocked out ADP then. Bill's Analysis coming to hand, as well as another Great Catcher, which we could potentially utilize here to buy ourselves a turn. We can Gust up that ADP and hope that they can't retreat, but we do need that extra Grubbin. All the other pieces are in our hand, but we just need to be able to find it. Ice Dance is going to accelerate an energy to Frostmoth. Actually, 2 energies to Frostmoth. You can wonder what this this choice is for. Maybe they're looking to use it as a retreat option. Obviously, this Mewtwo will be able to come into the active now, and they'll be able to take another knockout with Ultimate Ray, charge up a fresh Mewtwo on the bench, and it really comes down now to whether or not our opponent has access to Switch. If they don't, then we could potentially stall this ADP in the active, and it looks like they might be out of energy, at least in the deck there, so we're in a bit of an awkward position, but we can definitely get through it. It's not going to be too tough. We're going to Ordinary Rod. We're going to chuck 2 of these Grubbins back into the deck, because that is the key. We do need to find one of them this turn. I'm probably looking for Cinccino to discard a card here. I think the best choice is probably going to be the Mew. I mean, if we find a Grubbin and it gets shot with Naganadel, then that's obviously bad, but we do find one here. We've got an Electropower in hand as well. Could potentially use Make Do again. Whether or not we discard the Switch, or this is a really tough choice. It could be any number of these cards. I think we will get rid of the Switch, and we do find another Grubbin, which is really, really big, and we can bench both of them. We've got access to them now. We'll probably use Bill's Analysis to try and find some cards. We've got an Electropower, Rare Candy. We've got a whole bunch here. We'll grab the Evo Incense and the Electropower. That'll give us access to a second Charjabug. And now we can Great Catcher. We might potentially get rid of one of these Evo Incense, maybe even the Bill's Analysis. I don't want to get rid of the Bills, but it's probably the least useful card in our hand here. We need the Rare Candy, we need the Vikavolt, we need one of the Evo Incenses, and we need the E Powers. So I guess we're just looking for a Gust here on the ADP. We're going to hope that we can keep what we want, and probably should have used Intrepid Sword there, but just hit done. If there is a Gust from our opponent, we are probably going to lose, but we're in a position here where they need to Gust and retreat. They've got Evolution Incense to be able to find another attacker here. They've actually got Starmie GX, so that's a card that I wasn't expecting to see, but I guess it's a Water-type Mewtwo Pokemon, and they've actually just passed there, so I think as long as we have our Charjabug in deck here, we're actually going to win this game. We can Rare Candy this Grubbin into a Vikavolt. We've got 2 Charjabugs in hand, and double E-Power, so we'll battery twice, not even needing to use the Cinccinos here. E-Power, and then retreat, and Electric Cannon. That is an unbelievable turn of events. Make sure we click yes, and 280 damage onto the ADP to take our last 3 prizes. Very impressive from Vikavolt. There we go, we managed to sneak out a win there. Gusting that ADP ended up being the right decision, and we got across the line against that interesting Water Mewtwo deck that we were playing against there. Hopefully you've enjoyed the list and you can see the potential of Vikavolt. We'd really like you to stick around and see some more of these wacky decks we've got coming up over the next few days. We've got more of them on the way, so you can check them out here on the Sableyes. If you like the content, you can subscribe. There's a button where I just pointed up in the top left corner, top right corner of the screen that you can click to subscribe. Over here, there are some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like, and there is a playlist just down the bottom where you can watch more decks from Sword and Shield. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at @theSableyes_YT, and apart from that, we'll see you all next time for more from the Sableyes. Bye.